Good morning. We are live. It is Tuesday, May 19th, 2026, 10:10 a.m. And we are here to review and possibly vote out a bill S-193, an act relating to establishing a forensic facility for certain criminal justice involved persons. And we have lead counsel here, and the chair of House Judiciary will be down soon, we hope, to fill us in on all of that. So we have Katie and Eric, and I don't know who goes first or how you all want to do this, but.
Eric Fitzpatrick with the Office of Legislative Counsel. I think we can both go at once, but we're also curious what it is that the committee would like to hear about. It's a long bill.
This bill, this is, I mean, they must, I don't, and so what's it about and why is it in our committee? What's the money? Usually the questions that we ask. In a high level, what's it about? We don't need all the same policy level detail that everybody else has, but you know, if you can clarify what it means, what a forensic facility is, for example, and all of that stuff. So.
Great. Again, Eric Fitzpatrick with the Office of Legislative Counsel. Good morning, everybody. And the high level description of what's going on in the bill is that it creates a forensic facility run by the Agency of Human Services for certain people who are involved in the criminal justice system to be housed for a temporary period of time if they have been found incompetent to stand trial or not guilty by reason of insanity for an offense, not any time, but with respect to a criminal offense that has a lifetime maximum. There's only about a dozen offenses in Vermont that have a lifetime max. It's a pretty uncommon maximum penalty. So it's a fairly small universe of people that would be subject to this. And not only does it have to be subject to a lifetime max, the person also has to be either being held without bail, which is also quite common with respect to lifetime max offenses for a person to be held without bail. Or if they're not being held without bail, then they have a qualifying condition, which is defined in the bill, that would result in substantial risk of bodily injury to another person if they were released. So you have these two avenues where a person could end up in a forensic facility, either not competent to stand trial, not guilty by reason of insanity for an offense with a lifetime max, generally speaking, held without bail. The idea is that those folks are then in the facility and they are periodically reviewed by the Agency of Human Services medical director to determine whether or not they have regained competency, sometimes referred to as restored, whether competency has been restored, in which case they can go back to the criminal division and have their criminal case proceed. If they have not regained competency, then they will generally stay in the forensic facility, but there's an opportunity, what we've been calling off-ramps, for the person to be released into the community if it's determined that they're not dangerous anymore. So they have these opportunities and they're periodically reviewed by the court, either oftentimes every 6 months, sometimes it becomes a 12-month period where they are reviewed. But in addition to this periodic review, at any time, the medical director can certify to the court, hey, actually, it looks like this person is competent now, or this person isn't restorable. So there's also an opportunity at any time for there to be a judicial review of the person's continued competence.
So how big would this place be? Do we know anything more about it says to establish and operate a locked, secure facility. Beds or whatever it is.
So Katie with the Office of Legislative Counsel, later in the bill, you'll find there is a feasibility plan section, and a lot of the decisions around where the forensic facility will be, how many beds will be in it, who is staffing it, what are the operating costs? Is this a new facility that's being built, or is it an existing facility that's being fit up? All of those decisions have not been made yet, and they're all part of a feasibility plan that is coming back to you next January. So there are some interim check-ins to joint legislative justice oversight over the summer, and then a comprehensive proposal with staffing strategies, interim competency restoration placements. That's all part of this feasibility plan.
Okay, so there isn't one in place, and we're there. This is really to try to get it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The only decision that's really been made is that it wouldn't be within the walls of a correctional facility.
It would be.
Would not.
Would not be. Okay, Lynn?
This, the Middlesex facility that we've had since the closure, what was the facility we used after the closure of the state hospital?
There's a secure residential recovery facility It's no longer in Middlesex, but that facility type still exists. And that's for individuals who are not necessarily involved in the criminal justice system, but they meet the medical level of need required to be in the care and custody of the Department of Mental Health.
This is strictly related to the criminal justice system.
Yeah, that's what I
Still
thought
hear you.
that was.
This one.
Exactly.
Yes,
Sort of.
it's a secure facility. It's not hospital level care. It's a step down from that, but it is a secure facility. But individuals have not necessarily been involved in the criminal justice system before being placed there.
So,
And,
go ahead. Keith.
and the Department of Corrections, it says in the intent, will not run this. There may be staff there for specific purposes, but this is an agency of human services facility, right?
Yes.
And is the Department of Mental Health involved or?
I think those decisions really haven't been made yet. That's part of the
This is
feasibility
pretty
plan.
preliminary.
But it
Yeah,
is very
we-
specific about the Department of Corrections role.
Yeah, but it does say that a forensic facility could be co-located on the grounds of a correctional facility. So not in the building, but a correctional facility may have an extra 100 acres and they can move them, they can be in 10 acres on the edge that's not part of it. So that's what they mean by within the grounds of, no.
The record on my own fiscal office. I think to answer your question, I suspect the reason it's here is in this committee is because it's a future capital investment. So that answers your question. And then in terms of, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but the agency, their take on it is that the plan as envisioned in the bill, they say will take resources from the agency to make the feasibility.
Except we don't know how much.
We don't know how much they will need. They were trying to get back to soon, but not.
Okay. So
Keep going.
Katie, maybe you can walk us through what the actual feasibility, where that section is.
That's section 7, if I get- and I'll pull it up on the screen.
Page 24.
Thank you.
Okay.
Faster than me. Okay, I'll pull this up on the screen. Okay, so here's section 7. So I already said it's coming back to you next January. It's coming from AHS in consultation with BGS. They're submitting a feasibility plan to 7 different committees, including this committee. The plan assumes that operations, staffing, and programming is provided by AHS or its departments. Again, with the same caveat, the exception that DOC is not going to play a role in its operation, provision of services, or internal security, other than security at the admitting area of the forensic facility or on the outside perimeter of the forensic facility if the facility is co-located on the grounds of a correctional facility. And then there's a list of everything that's going to come back in the feasibility plan. So the proposed location, again, separate from correctional facility and if on the same ground, separated by sight and sound. Proposed design plans, number of beds, entity or entities responsible for operating and providing services, the timeline for constructing a standalone forensic facility or fitting up an existing standalone facility, estimated cost of constructing or fitting up and operating a forensic facility, which aspects of the therapeutic community residence role would be needed to modify, which rules would we have to modify to operate the forensic facility as a TCR. So in the definition of forensic facility, it says that the forensic facility would be licensed as a TCR. That is a licensing designation whereby Dale would license the facility. That doesn't mean it's only individuals in Dale's custody that would be there. It's just who licenses it. The rules, the TCR rules would not entirely line up with the needs of the forensic facility. So that's why that particular subdivision is in there to recognize that there'd be some modifications to the role with regard to a forensic facility.
David's question.
I didn't mean to interrupt. This, the way the language is here, would it prohibit the consideration of out-of-state placements being part of the portfolio or overall plan?
There's language later on that looks at out-of-state placements as a temporary Yeah, for the interim, well, there is a Vermont facility pending. And then there's language that says that the option for the out-of-state placements goes away when the forensic facility in Vermont is up and
So
running.
somebody had made a decision not to really go on a permanent basis without a state for a discrete specialized population. Temporarily, while it's being considered, yes,
Mhm.
but not long-term. Do you know why?
Why don't we go through the rest of this section and maybe that question will get answered, but I think we got to the TCR
Okay.
and then number
Division
8.
8 is what the clinical services will be available at the forensic facility, including competency restoration. 9, what does staffing look like? What are the staffing levels, staff qualifications, potential contracting needs? And then it's asking for multiple potential staffing strategies. Subdivision 10 is what is the security plan within the facility and around the perimeter of the facility. Same language about DOC's involvement. Subdivision 11, a resident discharge and community monitoring plan from each department with custody of individuals in the forensic facility. So what does it look like when somebody leaves a forensic facility? What services do they get? How are they monitored? Subdivision 12 is this interim language that opportunities and cost estimates for persons who would be eligible for placement at the forensic facility to receive the following service while the development of a forensic facility in Vermont is pending. So the first, you could consider placement in an out-of-state residence where clinically appropriate programming can be provided. And second, there could be consideration of a competency restoration within a Vermont correctional facility provided by an entity that is not under contract with DOC.
So Katie, we must have people that would qualify if we had a facility now. Where are people being held right now?
I think it depends. I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all answer.
Sometimes they're in the correctional facility. Sometimes they can be in the community on community supervision. As Katie said, there's no one size fits all.
There
There
are some out of state now?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
If they meet the clinical level of care, they would be in DMH's custody if they have a mental health condition.
And then if DMH would decide where they would be best placed?
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately a judge that decides, but they could
Okay.
make a proposal. But they're only held as long as they have a clinical need. So once the person no longer meets the clinical standard of care, they'd be released.
So the only people here are the ones that are up for life in prison, so murderers, extreme dangerous people, or have been dangerous to us. So the question I have is, we're ruling out DOC. And what's the purpose of that? How are you gonna secure those folks inside and keep the staff safe if you don't have anybody that has the experience to do that? You're ruling out a major class of people that have that kind of experience. Must have been discussed in committee. Maybe Chair Lalonde speak with that.
Yeah, well, Mark.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that from, that was more in corrections and
Introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, Mark Malone, representative from South Burlington and chair of the House Judiciary Committee. It would be equivalent to hospitalization. I mean, there's currently locked residences that DMH or others or designated agencies already have very dangerous individuals and they have security that's not DOC. So this is not unprecedented.
Okay, so the intent would be to contract or hire people to do that job, and that would be part of this.
That's my understanding is it would be part of the feasibility plan would lay that out.
Okay, that's to me.
Subdivision 13 is part of the plan would be looking at an expansion of the Act 248 population to include individuals with a cognitive disability. Subdivision 14 is a proposal on reporting metrics and demographics, outcomes, and staffing at the forensic facility. And then any other recommendations for legislative action. And then that language in subsection B is just saying that there are 2 interim reports that are coming in over the summer and fall about the work on the feasibility plan prior to the final one arriving in January.
Yes. So the joint legislative justice oversight committee will hear that in the fall. So where did this bill come from? I don't know. So Martin, maybe you want to give us a little background about it. Do you want to come sit at the table or have a chair or, thank you guys.
Sure.
I'm a little confused about all of this, but.
Bart Malone again, South Burlington Rep, Chair of House Judiciary Committee. So this is something that the agencies, Agency of Human Services has been working on for a while. We have in the legislature been working on it for a while as well. This isn't the first time we've really tried to get a forensic facility put in place. Last biennium, we fell a little short. And that last biennium, it was a much broader concept and it wasn't restricted to individuals with a life sentence charge. So this was really to deal with the highest needs individuals this time round. And this is something that I've had conversations with Senate Judiciary and Senate Health and Human Services. What do they call them? Ginny lines.
Health and welfare.
Health and welfare, thank you. And I've worked with Senator Lyons on trying to continue to push this through. There's a gap in our system. There's a gap where somebody doesn't meet the clinical needs or for being hospitalized and under the custody of DMH and having them on like an ONH, an order of non-hospitalization, which there's really no supervision and such. And so these are high needs individual, potentially very dangerous individuals that we don't really have an appropriate place. So often they are sitting in Department of Corrections. They are in prison, even though they've been found not competent to stand trial. They can be there for a while because they're trying to find a placement, because there's ongoing litigation about the individual's competency, because that's a fluid concept, competency often. So individuals are being held in a non-therapeutic environment, not getting the services that they need. So the other gap is that we don't have a competency restoration programming. Most other states do work to try to restore an individual's competency so that they can be tried, so they can have their day in court. And it's very important for victims as well to have that kind of closure. So this would be our first step in having actual competency restoration services specifically. So those are really the couple gaps that this is trying to fill and that we have been trying to fill for a number of years.
Yeah, because we've never had a forensic facility, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
And so how many people would qualify right now if we had a facility? How many beds would we need at this moment?
Approximately 5. So it's not very many people that meet all those qualifications. Possible life sentence, not hospitalized, being held. Most of them are being held without bail because of the high risk and are incompetent or not guilty by reason of insanity. And we've heard that they wouldn't expect more than 5 or 6 individuals at any given time at this point.
Okay.
If it works, if we are able to establish this sometime down the road, it could perhaps be expanded to other, because we're not capturing all of the potentially risky or dangerous people, but this is a good place to start to keep the ball moving.
Okay. Wayne, did you have a question?
What was committee
902.
Did this go to any other committees?
So it didn't go if no other committee took
Possession?
possession. That's the word I was looking for.
You're used to the custody thing.
Yeah, I know custody. Yeah, exactly. That's the jurisdiction, custody.
There's a facility for that.
Yeah, exactly. I've only been here for 12 years. You'd think I remember these words, but I don't. But we got input and there was a lot of testimony taken by Human Services,
Okay.
Healthcare, and the main other partner in this was Corrections and Institutions, was really the author of sections 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, whereas the House Judiciary Committee was really the author of sections 1 through 4 and 8.
Okay. All right,
We were doing this previous biennium when I was on corrections. I think we had joint meetings with you.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
yeah. And I think I had a meeting with Chair Emmons and the head of the commissioner of BGS to talk about making sure the language was doable for them.
Right. So, and I do know that we have potentially going to see an amendment from Human Services, from Chair Wood. I
Right,
don't anticipate it impacting any of what
we're talking about here.
it's really
I just sent
tweaking.
her a text because I thought that I read something that there might be an amendment. I don't know if we had to hear it, but it sounds like it could be a floor amendment and we wouldn't,
Yes,
we
I know
probably
it's going to
couldn't
be.
hear, but we probably wouldn't have to hear.
I don't, yeah, I really don't think it's going to affect, from what I understand, I haven't looked at what that's going to be felt.
So I'm guessing this is here because even though there isn't any money officially in here, there might be. And if it's a project, we're gonna have ongoing staff and costs and operating costs, so there's future money that we don't have any idea about. Do we have any sense, and I don't know if you're the right person, but maybe Nolan is, when we operate, I don't know, Red Clover or, do we know what the annual operating costs are?
I don't know, we can find out.
It's, I have
some of
like
that
4 or
buried
8
in my-
million or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Many millions, but
Yeah.
not 10,
Right.
but a chunk.
So. Yeah. It's not inexpensive, this particular population to treat
Right.
and keep the public safe.
So a couple of years ago, again, if we were looking at a couple of things, I recall there was a facility where they were proposing to put a solid port in, but they had to have a separation between one type of inmate and the other. I'm not sure whether this was to deal with these folks or not, but there was also a salad port for St. Albans up there too, but whatever happened to the one where they were gonna separate the two populations, so they couldn't intermingle or they couldn't come in contact with each other. I thought that was maybe for this purpose.
That's a good question. I think where that comes into play in this bill is in the feasibility study and the, it's one of the last paragraphs where they talk about what are we going to do in the interim? So what can we provide as treatment for these individuals in DOC? And that may mean, sight and sound separation within the facilities now. But from the experts, and this is not in my realm, but I've heard from these folks as well, is it's not a good environment to try to treat an individual, to try to get them to restore competency and to reduce their risk as well. So.
On penetration.
I was thinking, the amendment that might be coming along here, we don't really know the content of that yet. Do you think there might be something in there to provide some interim?
I don't believe so. No, it's tweaking some language mostly in the first few sections, first and third section.
I'm hearing from Chair Wood that it's not something that we're going
Okay.
to see.
Yeah, that's
So,
fine.
so if I had to sort of sum up what we're doing, this is a program, a facility that we have long needed in many people's eyes. And so the point of the bill is to get started, do a feasibility study, and then see how we want to proceed from there, if and how we want to proceed from there. So we're not committing to building a facility. We're not committing to funding a facility. We're committing to letting people go forward and do some more research officially to try to decide how we go forward. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, and what the bill does is it does set forth the process for who will be sent to such a facility and how long they will be there. And also it sets forth the requirements for a facility, the operation of the facility. So it lays out a lot
Yes.
in the bill to move this along.
Okay, so it's kind of how we ought to be doing things. If we're going to build things, we ought to be doing it in a stepped, formal framework fashion so that's making sense to me. Lynn?
Okay, for some reason, I remember vaguely that there was a forensic facility somewhere in the state hospital before Irene wiped out the state hospital I'm not sure exactly how that worked, but and the second thing that I remember, is the last time you did this, in the last biennium, there was a controversy, and this may have been why you say it was broader, to include not just these individuals that you're talking with, the criminally engaged people, but also people who are developmentally disabled who need care. Am I correct? Is that what that?
So this would
Not
still.
considered a good idea, if I
Right.
recall.
No, this would still include somebody, for whatever reason, they're found incompetent. Could be developmental disability, could be intellectual, but right, but and they are charged with a life offense or found not guilty by reason of insanity. So it's fairly narrow. I think their last time was broader as far as it would be just individuals who are incompetent. And it didn't actually focus on competency restoration, which this does. And there may have been there was a location in the state hospital for individuals who were criminally justice involved and had needed the treatment. But from my understanding, they weren't receiving, for instance, competency restoration treatment.
Right.
So it was different.
They were warehousing, sort of.
Yeah, I think, although they were getting better treatment there than they would have if they were in the Department of Corrections, in a prison.
So Nolan, I'm going to ask you to just speak, because I think you were trying to get a sense of, there's got to be some costs associated between this feasibility study, but there's nothing in the bill. Did you all try to get information?
No, we did not. And just to back up a little bit, what was in the bill that came over from the Senate was a rulemaking process. And we've essentially, we thought that was premature, and we were changing that essentially to the feasibility plan.
I see.
So whatever planning the agencies were doing as far as what they needed as far as resources, we suspected that was going to be aimed towards a reporting requirement and the rulemaking.
Okay.
Now it's a feasibility plan.
Okay.
It has some overlaps with what they were going to do.
Right. And so they didn't think they needed money for rulemaking. Right. Okay. And Nolan, I know you tried to, you were in conversation with AHS.
They said they were gonna try to get them something before the committee heard, but I just texted them and said they're hearing
Okay.
it.
So there's no money, and if the agency wants money, I guess it's going to go back to the Senate. And there's budget adjustment. But this lays out a plan regardless of when it happens. There's a plan for that.
Yeah, I assume it's just internal costs. They're gonna
Yeah.
assign staff people from these two departments to sit down and
They may,
hash it out.
Right.
or they may feel that they need to hire an outside contractor to help them understand it. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
my-
well, then they'll have to come back to us at some other future point, but at this point,
I don't know that they know yet. Right.
yeah.
No.
So we may see something in budget adjustment, is my guess. If we want to. Does anybody have any other questions about this bill? Anybody who's left sitting in the room? They're dropping like flies. John has a bill on the floor that he has to go report. Are we clear on this? We're being asked to vote this out this morning so it can be sent on its way this afternoon. Is that right, Martin?
At this point, because of the amendment from Chair Wood, we'll be looking at that amendment this afternoon. So this would not be hitting the floor till tomorrow morning. So that's kind of changed the timing a little bit. I was hoping to be able to do this afternoon, but we're not going to be able to.
Okay, but we can get it off our plate
That'd be great.
this morning, which would be lovely because we have many other bills. Mike?
I just wanted just real briefly to say that, this is one of those topics that I'm more aware of because even though it's a small number of individuals, one of them did murder an individual 2 blocks from my home.
Ooh.
And so I know that the lack of a clear plan in the state has caused and continues to cause a lot of anguish to the family.
Mhm.
So I really thank the judiciary for the work on this and just want to reinforce that this is important.
Great. All right. Before anybody has to go up and report a bill, Lynn,
How would you make a motion to this?
to support the bill
Just to support the bill?
as presented. Oh, wait.
I just have a quick
Yeah,
process question.
sure.
Maybe it's for the bills, they do a feasibility study, But do they have to present the feasibility study? Does the legislature have to approve the feasibility study, or can they just go ahead and sign contracts without? My point is, a lot of times the administration signs a contract,
Yes.
puts it in their budget saying, we need to fund it. So is there any language that says they have to get approval from the legislature for the budget before they can sign a contract? And just throwing that out there as consideration. Because a lot of times they move forward on these things and then ask for the money afterwards, and they might not do what we want.
That may have come up in corrections and institutions because they really focus on the feasibility study. That's a question for Chair Evans, and unfortunately.
I'm just throwing it out there because.
Do we want to have something in here that's, you know what, we might want to have Chair Emmons come down. Can you check and see?
She has been in a conference.
I know, and she got in touch with us and apparently said if we need to come down, so, how about if we go off live for a moment and then we'll come back and while you text or whatever.